Okay, Zoom recording. Okay, wow. So it's 2:00 in Boulder, Colorado, actually. No, it's 12:00 in Boulder, Colorado. And my computer is still telling me that it's 2:00 on Tuesday, which is when I normally show up for Thriving Live. And look who's here with me today, Dan Ruderman.
Yeah.
Coach Dan Ruderman.
There it is.
Yeah,
With a
an
green
erotic
star.
blueprint coach. And here I am, Gabrielle Senza, which might be backwards in there.
Looks backwards. Who knows?
Pronouns are she, her, they, them, ze, them, zizier, all the things.
It's easier to say it that way.
Zizier, it's easier.
Yeah.
Dan, welcome.
Thank you,
Thanks
Gabrielle.
for being here. Come on. Oh,
It's
we
a
don't have
pleasure
a
to be
chair
here.
for you.
I have a chair. I'm sitting. I'll sit on a thing.
Come closer.
Another thing.
Okay, Dan's gonna get a thing to sit on because why not?
This is
So-
the kind of thing that if I sat on when my mother was around, I'd get yelled at.
Oh, man,
See,
risky.
triggered your mother aspect.
How
Hi,
do you know
everybody.
that? So welcome to Thriving Live. It is Tuesday and we are live and we're recording
And we're thriving.
and we're thriving.
So
Yeah, and we're
everything's in
here,
place.
right? Everything's in place. And I even had a snack on the way over from the other place where we were. So we're in Boulder, Colorado. I know I mentioned that already. I've never been to Boulder, Colorado before. Dan has,
I have.
but he's never been here for this event because this event has not happened.
This is the first time that this has ever happened this time. Right
It's
now.
true. It's
never-
so true.
Never happened
It's so
before.
true. And how do you like these gray highlights? I think they're really cool.
They're really
They're
good.
very lit in this light. I like them. I'll accept them. I'll keep them. So what are we doing here in Boulder, Colorado, instead of Great Barrington, Massachusetts, and coming to you live from Railroad Street? Or the first episode happened actually from LA in California. Yeah.
The
So
other sea states.
it's kind of exciting that we're here on the show live, because there was a part of me that was like, no, I can't do it right now. No. And there's other parts like, yes, I want to do it.
No, we came
So
out for this
exciting.
coaching and we spent the entire morning setting a container, which is such a vital part of what the Erotic Blueprint Coaches program is about. The whole idea that the container is worth the time to
Mhm.
set, and that by setting a good container, all things are possible, and it meets all the values of the Blueprint program, like expanding values, going beyond, or expanding limits and going beyond them, but you can create a safe space to do that
Yeah.
first. So we spent the entire morning, well, pleasure first.
Pleasure first. I was just going to
Dancing.
grab my notebook because I have them all listed out.
You know, all right, well,
I'll do that.
I'll talk while you grab it. The real pleasure first, I have to say, was to meet all these fabulous humans that we have met. Only 3 out of the 80 or so that are here have we ever met live and in person before. And the rest are people that we've done all this great work with, shared all this vulnerability and intimacy and learning together, consenting to make mistakes together, practicing with each other, and watching us all grow over these 2 years, even though we never changed size. We were always like Zoom sized. Right?
Yes, everybody in a little box.
Yeah.
And we would get really intimate with everybody in terms of
Yeah.
like the sharing and vulnerability and life experiences and holding them in a space for healing and transformation. And yet not physically present in the same room until today.
So I have to
That's
admit, after the
amazing.
first 10 minutes of being in the hallway waiting to go in and seeing and meeting people that I've been wanting to touch
And be in space
breathe
with,
and
right.
feel for so long, after 10 minutes, I just like, I'm done. I can't do anymore. I have to just, and what is that, expansion and contraction? I
Yeah.
had to just contract and be with that for a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
we spent the next couple hours, dancing and covering the container and the core values. And then all of a sudden I looked at my watch and I'm like, I am going to need to get Gabrielle a little bit organized and remind her that
To get out.
it's Thriving Live Tuesday, TLT. And, and where are we going to do it? And did she bring her computer? we are staying in a different hotel, just literally 3 minutes by car, which we took today as the car. So I convinced her to come back here.
Yeah, we were able to
That's
zip
computer.
over here. My main concern when we left that room was first to get to the restroom because I really needed to. My bladder was full like so many others, but I wanted to be front of the line there. And they're like, well, first 3 claps. And then I was like, okay. And then my second order of business was to get more food because I was already feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling depleted and I'm having a sugar low and all those things. And then I was like talking to myself about like, you didn't plan this very well, Gabrielle. You didn't prepare to care for yourself, but Dan was.
Sometimes we can help each other out.
I know.
I've heard that sometimes humans can help other humans.
It's so nice,
Wow.
right?
That we can
Yeah.
learn to lean on each other.
Lean on each other.
Don't lean
Yeah.
on me too much. I'm sitting on a thing, not
All right.
a chair.
Oh, yes.
This isn't a,
We don't want a
That's it.
disaster and black eyes.
no.
So yeah, we are thrilled. I mean, can you tell we're pretty excited? I'm very excited to be here. And it's a great example of thriving live and just sort of reaching beyond what was comfortable and saying yes to becoming or learning about erotic blueprints and then agreeing or thinking it would be amazing to become erotic blueprint coaches because this work is so profoundly moving and empowering. And it's rocking everybody's world. It's rocking my world as a person, my world as a coach, watching the other coaches' worlds get totally rocked, and then just being so thrilled and inspired to be able to bring this out into the world, in whatever ways we do, either as in, one-to-one coaches or in group programs or by publishing and writing books and the other way around, doing this, all the different ways. So it's really thrilling to be here. What got you, Dan, into erotic blueprint coaching?
What got me into erotic blueprint coaching? I guess I should remember or know what the first time I was exposed to this, but I don't. I was exposed to Jaya's teaching, or to Jaya when she taught a program that somebody else did called, I think, Steamy Sex Education or something like that I had gotten. I wanted to be a better lover.
Mm-hmm.
I liked making love. I liked having sex. I like being good at it, but from the point of view of I grew up with the idea that a good lover was someone who made their lover feel good. Right? That wasn't just about my own pleasure, but about giving pleasure. And then I learned about the erotic blueprints. I thought they were pretty interesting. And then they were doing an introductory call on to be an erotic blueprint coach. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Let me try that out. That was for me. So I have a kinky side in the pure definition, blueprint definition of kinky, meaning always wanting to do something that I haven't done before, always pushing the limits. I like to try new things. So I was intrigued by how could learning this make me more good giving in game and be around more people who are good giving in game, and maybe even teach other people to be good giving in game.
And you discovered that I was pretty good giving in game.
Correct. And
I discovered that he was way more adventurous than I could have ever guessed. Much to my delight and great satisfaction. And because I wanted to do this last week on Thriving Live, but I chose to talk about a different thing. And I also didn't have any strawberries cut nearby. I think this is a perfect segue. So the idea of kinky doesn't always necessarily mean what people might immediately think of, like bondage and leather and whips or paddles or whatever.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Oh no, that's the awesome part of it. But it could be as minimal a new thing to a person, for example, who's only ever had like the most basic sex, right? Like maybe even admission style, like they just lay there, they receive it, it's a thing, it's an obligation, whatever it is they think about it. If their experience of sex is so limited, and not thrilling to them, then, you know, if they come into a relationship with somebody where they do begin to feel safe and maybe even a tiny bit adventurous, that little bit of adventure could be as small as like smelling a strawberry, maybe even blindfolded, and then maybe having, oh, would you do that? Would you rub that on my lips?
Yes, I will.
Having her lover
but
rub the
I
juicy
kind of want to
part.
put it on you as a nose ring, but I'm
No.
not going to. Now, I don't want you to not use your tongue. Keep your tongue out. So we have a brat. This is a bratty.
Not during a full
So-
kinky. We did not set the container for how far we were going to take that little thing. I just wanted to demo. Look at that evil, not sneaky little.
You were saying,
What I wanted to say was, even just feeling the coldness of a cut strawberry on one's lips for the first time as a part of the eroticism of the relationship, for some people would be totes kinky.
totes kinky.
Totes kinky.
And
Totally kinky.
right, and some people would think of a strawberry rubbed around the lips and eaten slowly as very sensual. But if a person's never done it before, it's kinky.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
As a bumper sticker I saw once also said, it's only kinky the first time.
That's pretty funny. So that was delicious and lovely. And
I have a kinky question for you.
Okay.
What's the first, and I'll answer mine, I'll answer the question since I'm asking, I didn't prep you for it or anything. What was the first radical thing that you learned about sex? So I'll call that kinky because it was new. Like, what was the first discovery you had that let you know that what you had known about sex was probably not all there was to know about it? And I'm not, that's not the clearest question, but I think I'm getting to it. I'll give you my example. When I was in, I believe it was when I was in Denmark, and somebody had the notion of, I never heard the idea that you could have sex with your eyes open or the
Oh.
lights on.
Oh.
Up until then, anything I'd done was eyes closed. My eyes were closed as far as I knew. The other person's eyes were closed. I didn't really know because my eyes were closed.
Right.
But when I peeked, and maybe other people have done that too, you know, my eyes were closed. I thought everybody's eyes were closed, but you peek sometimes to see what's going on. Their eyes are closed. You're like, all right, everybody has sex with their eyes closed. And then somebody said something about having sex with their eyes open, or that they said they liked watching their lover get undressed before they got into bed. I'm like, well, the lights were on before you got into bed. Like, I don't, you know, it was like lights out, you be in bed naked and the lights are out. It wasn't clear how that all worked, but that's what we did. So you closed your eyes. So that was kinky for me. Having eyes open and connecting and looking at another person and being seen, that was kinky.
Did you think of it as kinky?
No,
You thought of it as like new and strange.
Revelatory.
Yeah, revelatory. Yeah. Wow.
Revelatory. I would never open my eyes until somebody suggested it, and I tried it. So yes, so kinky can be as simple as looking at the person that you're making love with and having them see you as well.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any experiences like that? Consent is kinky if you've never had it.
Yeah, consent is really hot. Wow. Do you want to demonstrate that?
Do you want to demonstrate consent?
Yeah.
Sure.
How about if I ask you a question?
Okay.
Dan, do I have your consent to touch your ear with my finger?
Yes. Am I demonstrating just consent, or did you want me to demonstrate no?
I just wanted you to be real and authentic in your answer.
Yes, you can touch my ear. That's delightful. Here we go. May I hold your head firmly under the jaw and lock eyes with you and hold you like that for 7 seconds?
No.
Thank you for taking care of yourself.
Thank you for demonstrating. So I think it could be really fun to have Dan on the show more regularly on Thriving Live, because we could, for so many reasons. Because first of all, I always have a blast with you when we're well, all the time in general, but also when we're sharing and being real and how delivering ideas or discussing things and demonstrating. So I'd be really interested to know if any of our listeners, watchers are interested in exploring that, because I might need to petition him to come on and have it be a regular thing.
It was like, were you asking me if I wanted to be on the show, or were you asking them if you wanted me to be on the show, or are you asking them if I should be on the show, or are you trying to sway me by having me?
It's all the
inundated with
things. It's
messages?
all the things. I'm indirectly asking you.
When you get to the point of asking me
Mhm.
for my consent to be on your show, when you extend that invitation,
Okay.
I'll answer the question. But until then, it's really interesting.
Ooh, that's such a turn on for me, because he's withholding and I am,
Not withholding.
he's withholding something that I want to know.
No, I'm holding
right?
shoulders. May I hold your shoulders?
Yes,
during
you
the
may
show?
hold my shoulders during this.
That was not consent because I touched you first.
Right. So it's really interesting to start practicing consent in all the places. A really important one that was brought up today in our container is to ask for consent before giving advice.
Yes.
And, so let's say I can think of many times when I could be a better person by asking consent before offering advice to people or suggestions. And, therapists are really good at not making suggestions, like if you're in a therapy session and you're like, I don't know what to do, and you're working it all out, because their training teaches them to hold the space for a person to kind of come to their own understandings of things and to make the decisions for themselves. And I've had really good therapists who don't suggest what I do, but they suggest that I might learn more about something, right? I can educate myself more. For example, one was emotional blackmail was a term that one of my therapists used. Do you know anything about emotional blackmail? No. And then once I researched it, I was like, oh, I've been living with emotional blackmail for a really, really long time. And that was so helpful to understand, and then for me to eventually liberate myself from that. And another one was postpartum depression for moms, because I always had the assumption that that only happens to some people, or people that might be predisposed to depression, or it couldn't possibly happen to me or whatever. I don't know why I would think that, except that I just was totally ignorant and had no idea what postpartum depression is, and that it's a pretty natural phenomenon and can happen for pretty much every person who gives birth to an infant. And then it all makes sense. It really, once you delve into it and you start thinking about it, it's oh, of course, sort of like what you were just describing in a very stretched out kind of way about having that first 10 minutes with all the people and then feeling oh, I've had enough. I need to retreat, And so, if a human is carrying an infant for 9 months, and then finally the infant is out and in the world and not requiring all this mechanic stuff happening and amazing things happening in the body that naturally would there's a whole bunch to it, emotionally, physically, in all the ways, intellectually. So I know that's kind of a stretch, but
no, it's the world's slowest wave is the word I'm hearing you say. Having experienced postpartum depression from the physiological basis that carrying a child has, right? Because there's a physiological component to it, but there's, I believe, also emotional and social components as well. So it's just imagine you're out in the ocean and you're just watching the world's biggest slow wave come to you, and you're just feeling yourself going up and up and up over it, as they come in. It's just so slow. Like everything you're gearing for is that top of that wave. And then it passes and the trough is so big.
Right.
And you've just spent all this time wondering, when is this going to end? How long, how big is this wave? How long am I going to be climbing it? What's going to happen at the top? And then it gets there and it's, whew, you're just down in a trough equally big, and like all of that anticipation and everything else is over. I think you add that, I think it's possible that if you add that to the fact that there's now a helpless infant that you're responsible for, would be a
24/7.
Would be a rather big shock to the system, a big change
Yeah.
and I, from my readings and stuff, the hormonal changes, all the body changes are just dramatic, so it's to compare it to sugar, to the sugar, what do they call that when you eat sugar and then you
Oh, the sugar crash, or
the sugar crash. It is
Yeah.
like such an understatement, and yet there's an accuracy to
right.
it.
It's like,
the
and then
boom.
nap time.
Except that,
Yeah.
guess what? Your nap time is going to be delayed for 18 years.
Yes. And plus the identity stuff that comes along with, like being pregnant and carrying child, to suddenly no longer that. And now your mother or father or whatever the identity is, human caretaker, parent thing. And that shifts, right? And,
So it's really big
yeah,
changes.
pretty profound. I remember also I was living in Rome when I was pregnant with Matteo, and I was noticing that a lot of the moms I saw there were just so bitter and grumpy and not happy people. And the moms that were in this particular neighborhood, I can't say all the moms in Rome, obviously, because I didn't know all the moms in Rome, but a lot of the ones that I would run into every day in this neighborhood where I was living would just be kind of complaining and angry and, partially watching their kid and not. And anyway, I did ask somebody about that later. Well, what I wanted to say about that was that realizing and feeling all of these hormonal shifts that were changing in my body, I had no idea what was going on. I had no idea what to expect. I'd never been pregnant before. I didn't have any family around. I didn't have any close friends who were having babies at the time in Rome. And I didn't speak Italian well enough. And my nurse, my doctor, was from Napoli. And so her Italian, other than the fact that she was using all these words that I had never even heard, because it had to do with hormones and body and all these things, I'd never had occasion to use those words, but she was also speaking even the most basic Italian sentences that I probably could understand. She was using the Napolitano kind of accent. And so it was like really garbled in a way. And my ear could not make any sense of it. So I just felt so so alone, so, intensely like, I don't know how I can handle this. And then the big deciding factor for me was the heat. I was so heavy, carrying, it was a lot of weight that I added while I was holding and carrying Matteo. And the heat in Rome was stifling. It was just like 100 degrees, and the pollution in the air at that time was like smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day, so and there's like no relief, no air conditioning, none of the things that could ease it. So, and I happened to be living in an apartment that was quite luxurious, except that its tub was only like this wide. I can't even get my hips into a tub that wide now. When I was holding a baby, I was like, how do you do this?
Wow.
It was really hard. So anyway, I came home and I had lots of girlfriends that were having babies, and we all spoke the same language, and I had family nearby, and it was a much better situation for me. And then the postpartum thing, eventually was another part of the hormonal process and all the challenges that were part of my being a mom at the time.
And you're saying that your therapist gave you permission or consented to let you learn about this on your own by just making a suggestion.
Yeah, just saying, have you ever heard about postpartum depression? It wasn't even like, did you ever consider you might have it? It was a little less direct than that. And then I said, no, I never even thought of that.
And it wasn't a prescription patch.
No, right?
Get support, diagnosis,
No.
postpartum depression, prescription, get support and sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they did recommend that I might want to, well, they suggested, yeah, you might want to do some research, talk to some other people, who've had babies and see what their experiences have been like. I'm like, oh, and I learned I wasn't alone. Like so many things.
So this story was also a little bit about aloneness, twice in a way.
Yeah.
Being alone in Rome and coming back here, and then feeling even aloneness, being depressed, not knowing what was going on for you, and
Right.
then feeling less of aloneness after you learned about postpartum depression.
Yeah. True. True.
That's neat.
Yeah.
Loneliness is a thing.
It's a real thing. And it was already really, really severe and epidemic really before the pandemic, like it was it in the book that I first heard? It was the book called Mind Over Medicine by, I want to say Larissa, but I can't think of the name right now. But she's a medical, Western medical doctor, practitioner. And she mentioned that loneliness is like one of the number one killers for, earlier departure from the planet for people, So I understand that a lot of people who may have had like pretty rich social lives before the pandemic also now are feeling just overwhelmed by that experience. And
Lisa Rankin.
yes, thank you, Lisa Rankin.
Yeah, I just got that right. It just occurred to me when I looked it up on Google on my phone.
Yeah.
I'll let you pick which one.
I was watching your eyes, so I know. You can't fool us here.
This indicates I'm doing something else. Oh, look, I'm paying close attention to you.
Yeah, so
yes,
well,
loneliness is a killer. In men, it's a killer.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of science studies on it and research on it, on loneliness.
Yeah.
With men. And one of the men in my men's group was telling some stories about what that's like for him. And this is a really butchering job of a story, but there's a story about rats. They take rats and give them, because we do experiments on rats, people do. And you have rats, and if you put them in cages by themselves and you give them all the things, food, drugs, toys to play with, things to do, it's all fine. But they don't thrive.
Mm-hmm.
But with rats in particular, if you put them into a group environment with some activities that they can run around and do together, they thrive.
Mm-hmm.
So the notion of a rat pack, which used to be the term used for Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin and those characters back in the day, but basically for rats, being in a group, being in community and doing things together extended their lifespan by like more than 50%. So.
That's so incredible. And it's exactly related to another study that I read about in terms of addiction, opioid addiction and heroin addiction, that they discovered that rats who I think they may have successfully gotten addicted first before starting the trial thing, that when the rats had a community, like if they stayed alone in their thing, they would continue dosing themselves. They had a little thing where you could just go drink from the little thing and have some heroin with your water, something like that, right? And so they would just stay in this stupefied state on their own. And if they had access to community groups, right?
They'd press the thing less often to get.
They wouldn't do it at all. They would just abandon it altogether. So it was even a cold turkey thing. I mean, that that wasn't what it was about per se, but the importance of community, and which is such a challenging thing, right? For people who have addicts in their lives, that sometimes we just want to reject them and just be like, I can't be with you. I can't handle this. Get yourself cleaned up. And then that just might, if they don't have any other community, then they're more and more alone, and it plays into that
It's a
whole
bad
cycle.
Yeah.
And I guess that's partly why the step groups, 12-step groups, can be so helpful too, because
And
then they're
halfway
not
houses
doing it
sober
alone.
houses,
So people can help keep them accountable and give them some support and some love and acceptance. And
they could find out that the things that they're feeling that lead them to use a drug to change their feeling, or they're not the only one having those feelings.
right. And there's some people, they can even witness getting through the feelings, having the feelings, seeing them, getting through them without turning to whatever the thing was, drugs or alcohol or cigarettes or whatever. Oh, so much stuff.
But we did also start out on consent, and I want to make a comment, which is that in therapy is one of the few times when you're in a consent container. So by entering into therapy, you are consenting to allow the therapist guide you in a way that will help you reach your therapeutic goals. Right. So it is actually one of the times when they can do it. And in our program this morning, what they were talking about was that if you were talking with someone and you said, I've been like, I don't know, really morose lately, and I'm having trouble getting out of bed. And the person that you're talking to says, oh my God, I know just the thing for that. I just went through a 10-day program. You've got to do it. It's with Tony Landmark. It's, all the things, and you've got to do it right. And they get very excited, and they tell you, if you didn't ask for the guidance, then if you weren't asked for guidance and you weren't asked for help, then you don't have permission to give it.
Right.
And if you feel called to give it, then you have to ask consent before you do give it. And
right.
That's a really nice thing, especially since we're with 80 coaches, that all love each other and all know all these great things, like the desire to
help,
to test your chops on them and to help and to be a good healing person is there. So we included that part in the consent conversation, is you have to ask for consent before you provide guidance, advice, coaching, help.
Right. So that might look like, for example, like, oh, hey, I heard what you said in that earlier session. And, maybe there are a group of people around, so I don't want to reveal the thing that he said, but just like, let him know, like, I heard you talking about something that was troubling you in the earlier session. And, I have some ideas about that and something that could help you, or a couple of ideas. And if you want to explore that or talk about that, just come find me later. We can talk about it at a time. And then I'm not offended if he doesn't. And he doesn't have to shut me up because I was already spilling all the beans on what those things were. And it's a nice offer, because also, have you ever had that experience where it's like, I'm having my experience here, like with whatever's coming up or going on. And sometimes we just need time to go through that process of having the experience. Like you were saying earlier, within the first 10 minutes of being with everybody in the hallway that we haven't seen, but we've been so intimate with, virtually. If I came up and said, hey, Dan, blah, blah, blah. Oh, you're having a tough time. Come on, I have a solution for you. It's just like, it's so not helpful to me right now. Like, just let me be me and have my experience. And thanks for your concern.
Yeah. I've got some friends who'll be like, I just had a great massage. And then they grab my shoulders and they dig their thumbs into me. And I'm like, oh, you've got to relax. I'm like, you've got to learn consent and boundaries. Get the fuck off my shoulders.
Yeah, totally. So anyway, there's some more demo and some sharing from our morning of getting underway with our live coach event.
With our tribe.
With our erotic blueprint coach friends and mentors and care team and all of the things. And the rest of, there's more to go. So
We've got 3 more days of this, and then we have Pleasure Island Experience.
What does that mean?
Beats me.
I don't know.
Tell you next week.
We'll tell you what we can tell you next week. We can tell you about our own experience. if we choose to,
Correct.
if we consent to. So let us hear from you. I would love to hear from you. You can, maybe I'll post this one up on Facebook once it runs its course, and then anyone listening can add your comments in there. Of course, this is going live on YouTube right now as we're recording, so you can put comments in there. And if you want to register for the call, so you could actually be in the Zoom room with us, not in this room, but on your screen, and we can have a
Depending on where you are in the
communication.
country, maybe you could be.
Yeah, maybe you could come to the studio or
physicality.
wherever. Yeah. So
Maybe we'll have time and we can, I'm just totally jumping on your show that I haven't even consented to ever come back to. But we have some fabulous humans here. It might be fun to record a few half hours or a few sections that we can include in future Thriving Live Tuesdays. TLT.
TLT.
Gotta get yourself a little TLT.
I like that. I like that. So yeah, you can find me on social media, Gabrielle Senza Studio. That's my Instagram.
And you can find me here when I show up.
And what I was going to say, if you wanted to be on if you wanted to be on the Zoom call, because these so far are being done on Zoom, and then live streamed up to YouTube, you just register at the bit.ly link. So it's bit.ly/Thriving Live, all one word, and then you'll get the link to all the Tuesdays shows, and you can come on and you'd be one of the boxes on the screen with us. And if you had something coming up that you wanted to chat about, or to even get a live coaching session with, you could do that, or be in discussion with us.
What a nice invitation. Would you like to be a little box on our screen? Come on, give it a thought.
Come on. Go register at bit.ly bit.ly/Thriving Live. That's it. bit.ly/Thriving
There's
Live.
Zuno.com.
Oh, you do the bit.ly/Thriving Live.
Yeah.
And just write Thriving Live. Just
whatever
thrive.
you
Yeah.
like.
Just write Thriving Live, all one word. Don't try any extra capitalizations or separations. Doesn't work. It'll take you somewhere else.
Don't try capitalizations.
No capitalizations. All right, let's get back to the training.
Let's get back to the training.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We
Bye,
love
y'all.
you. Mwah.
Live your life with pleasure.
Yeah. All right. Our website. Did you know?
Are we still recording?
Yes, we are.
Then
We're
we
still
can tell
live.
them
So
whatever
guess
we know.
what? You could go to the pleasurefirstcoaching.com. Is that our web address?
Uh-huh.
You'd think we would know these things automatically, but it's a lot. We do a lot of different things. Pleasurefirstcoaching.com to work with one or the other or both of us as coaches on anything that has to do with pleasure, thriving, sexuality, gender expression, eroticism, art,
consent,
music,
relationships,
or any other thing you do in your life that you could use a little boost with, because we are really good boosters. We don't even run on batteries.
Solar powered, baby. We're solaritarians. We don't even eat or breathe.
I just ate a strawberry, but you didn't see that.
Oh, you're right. That's not very true to our word. All right. I confess I'm an omnivore. I'm getting it right out there. I'm an omnivore. I eat plants and meat.
Plants and animals.
And medicines.
Fish.
And lovers.
Pest. Lovers. Yeah. With consent. Only by consent.
Yeah. I'm getting a nibble on your shoulder right now. You might want to turn off the camera.
You might need to ask consent first.
Gabrielle, may I nibble on your shoulder?
Oh, please.
Can I take that body language?
That like my shoulder coming up to receive your nibble. Oh, please. Ooh. Mm. Ooh.
I'm going to continue my
Let me feel some
Journey.
teeth there on the bony part. Ooh.